alongside my man Tim Legler. And Tim, take all these notes throughout. Really, this felt like a really simple premise, and I'm curious if you share my assessment. This is an 80-win team. This has been the best team in the NBA all year. There's no way in God's green earth they're not winning this game tonight, and they played that way. What did you see?
Did feel that way to me, and I think what I saw tonight was the team that I watched all year with great offensive balance. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander basically carried this team in the first game offensively. It felt like everything they got had to be a finish by him, a shot by him at the end of possessions. Very little movement on the perimeter around him, very little shot comfortability around him. I saw a totally different team tonight, and I really thought the key – a couple of their guys they had off the bench, Alex Caruso and Wiggins, those two guys sensational. 38 points between them, and they just shot the ball in a relaxed mode. But their movement around Shai was what I noticed more than anything else. Look, Shai's going to collapse the defense over and over. He did it again tonight. The difference was when he did it tonight, if he didn't have a shot, the way that Oklahoma City continued to occupy open spaces, move the ball, shoot the ball with confidence in a relaxed state, that to me was the difference. I thought their offense let them down more than anything in game one.
And their defense, which we know is as advertised, what was it, chase and rake, and we talked about how they're cruel and they break other teams' hearts. But Indiana, when they possessed the ball game one, they made shots. They just turned it over too much early. In this game, they held them under 35% shooting in the first half. Was there a difference in terms of what Oklahoma City did on defense tonight?
I think a couple things. I think, first of all, there was definitely much more intent on closing out to open spaces on the perimeter. The three-point differential in this series is going to be huge. Game one, Indiana made a bunch late. They ended up with a +7 there. That's 21 points additional from the three-point line. This game was even, and I think a lot of that had to do with the way Oklahoma City was closing out to the three-point line. And then some of it, as we often talk about, Tyrese Halliburton was fairly passive in this game. He just didn't really play like his hair's on fire, and that's when they're at their best. When he has momentum up the floor, when he's getting those brush screens at half court and immediately getting into the gut of the defense and hunting his own offense. He didn't do a whole lot of that. He had a little bit of a spurt in the early fourth quarter, but by then you're talking about a 20-point game. So I think some of it's self-inflicted, but no doubt you saw the league's #1 defense on display tonight across the board. They defend the paint, they defend the three, they defend transition. You saw it all out of Oklahoma City.
And this Pacer team has demonstrated over and over again a rare, maybe unique capacity to erase double-digit deficits, but you fall behind 20-something to a desperate team on their home floor. They're not going to fall down 0-2. They did not tonight. We'll continue the conversation with Tim here momentarily. A moment ago, the Pacers coach, Rick Carlisle, sat down. Here's his assessment as his team will head back home with a split.
Well, first of all, you know, Wiggins and Caruso played great. Those guys played great. I thought the atmosphere, I thought their crowd was exceptionally great. And so as we go home, we're going to need our crowd to be just like this crowd was. I mean, these fans took it to another level tonight, and that's how Gainbridge is going to have to be, you know, for us to have a chance to be successful. And you know, Caruso and Wiggins, as you mentioned, both those guys shot it well. They caused other problems. They ran well. They made plays. They got a great feel for when to cut, and they hurt you in a lot of different ways. And so, you know, but you know, Shai, you can mark down 34 points before they even get on the plane tomorrow, you know, for the next game. I mean, the guy's going to score. We gotta find ways to make it as tough as possible on him. You know, Williams played really well tonight. All their guys played well, and so you know, we're gonna have to do a lot of things better.
First row.
Scott Agnes, Fieldhouse Files. I'm curious, you talk a lot about disposition and physicality. How do you feel like your team handled that? Because obviously the Thunder seemed to ramp up their intensity much more.
Not well.
Succinct, but to the point.
Yeah.
And I think he makes an interesting and valid point. Shai's going to get his.
Yes.
Okay, so let's mark down whatever number we want to attribute to him in advance of the next game starting. But in terms of the others, if the others are going to go 9 of 16, and the others I'm only talking about Caruso and Wiggins, I don't know what you do if you're Indiana. I guess you just need to make a hell of a lot more threes.
I do think they've got to make some sort of an adjustment at the point of attack with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on these ball screens. First of all, the screens are being set 35 feet out. He's using those screens. He is splitting that or turning the corner on that almost every time. So right off the bat, he's putting 2 defenders in his rearview mirror playing downhill. It happened in game 1. Difference was those guys didn't make shots around him. Their offense didn't move much. Tonight, they made shots around that. It still starts with Shai at the point of attack.
And he's getting mic'd up right now. It felt like the screens were set higher, which creates more space. That seemed to work really well. What does Indiana do to counter that?
He caught a number of defenders tonight flat-footed because they're so far out on the floor, and you're kind of jumping out trying to switch or hedge. And when you're that far out against a guy this quick and shifty with that kind of handle, he's going to split gaps, get downhill. It was a problem in game 1, just as much of a problem tonight. He just got more help tonight, and I thought the ball movement was better as a result. Look, this is a very efficient offensive team. That's not what they were in the first game of this series. They certainly were that tonight. You look at the shooting percentages across the board. You needed Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren to be better, and they were better. The difference was what they got out of those other guys and how relaxed they looked tonight as opposed to the first game when that lead started to slip away. They got a little bit tight. They didn't look tight tonight. They looked loose the entire game.
I'll put a smile on your face. Shai with his son that says he doesn't care what I do. That's the old cliche about any athlete in sports, right? When you get home, they don't care about if you won or lost. They're just happy to see Papa.
Right.
I'm just shook because I just saw a Lou Dort smile. I've never seen that. That is a serious dude who's all about
That's
business.
very true.
Hey, listen, smiles on the faces of all the Thunder tonight. You're going to show us how the gravity of Shai really impacts their offense?
Yep, and they said don't waste any time, so I'm jumping right into it. All right, here we go. So I talked about Shai and his ability to collapse the defense. Let's run it here. Comes up the floor and how much help he got tonight. And we'll stop it right here. And it starts with, defensively, this is the problem that Indiana's had this entire series, two games so far. It's all of this commitment out here to Shai, but the ball's not contained. If you're going to switch this on a guard screen, then the ball has to stay out there. Instead, it doesn't, and you're going to see this is kind of what it's been. He's down in this area of the defense, and then what that causes on the back end. So let's roll it from there. He gets downhill, he gets into the teeth of the defense. And then this is the problem, stop it, he creates right here. Not only does he draw 2 defenders here, take a look at Nembhard, right? His head is completely turned to watch the action. And this action here is what they were not getting in the first game. Movement off the ball after Shai's done the work. You're gonna see a flip to Hartenstein, Caruso runs to the open spot, let's play it, and he gets a wide open pocket. I cannot overstate the importance of Caruso and Wiggins tonight and what they did to blow the pressure cooker off this building. Here again, Shai's doing his work. We're going to stop it here. Shai's done his thing. Great players do what they do. You draw 2, and now let's see what happens when you play out of that. Let's roll it. He's got 2 down there. It's the ball movement off of that. Starts here, freeze it. Chet with the dive. Now, you're going to see on the weak side, you're going to see shooter coming up here. Wiggins is going to replace here. And Oklahoma City made Indiana pay every single time they made a mistake. One of these 2 players needs to be in a dead sprint here or here. Instead, they linger in the paint. We play it. And when you linger in the paint and that ball comes out of there, freeze it one more time, this is what you end up with. You get multiple Pacers chasing the basketball, 2 in the lane, spectating, and of course, you know what that's going to lead to. This one more swing pass, we play it out, and Wiggins knocks down another 3. This one was later. His impact came even earlier than that. I just felt like tonight the difference was how relaxed Oklahoma City looked in their player movement, ball movement. I mean, guys caught it and they towed it up. They shot it with confidence. Look, game 1 at home in the NBA Finals for a young team can be a little bit daunting, and I thought they played that way a little bit, even though they had the lead in the fourth quarter. They didn't really look loose offensively the whole game. I didn't feel like. Tonight they did right from the get-go, and boy, did that bench come in and got them separation, and they were determined this time they weren't going to let that lead slip.
Hockey assists, right? It's from 1, 2, 3. Sometimes sometimes 4 and 5. That's the way the ball was bouncing around tonight. Different deal. What do you expect to see quickly on Wednesday? You expect to see a Pacer team do what?
Yeah, I think you're going to see the tempo we always talk about with that team. We didn't get much of that tonight. I just thought Oklahoma City did a great job because of how efficient they were offensively. Indiana was taking the ball out of the net a lot, and they just didn't really get into that early action when they make you chase the basketball. That's when they're at their best. I expect the home crowd to help energize them. I expect, as we've often seen, Tyrese Halliburton to be the guy that bounces back and be the guy that's the engine for them. He was not the engine tonight. You're going to see a different response out of him. Doesn't mean they're going to win the game. OKC's best team in the league, but you're going home now. You accomplished what you needed to, Scott. You got the split.
Right, and how you perform one game doesn't necessarily have anything to do with how you'll do in the next. With that in mind, Chet Holmgren, who was good from the jump tonight, on bouncing back in Game 2.
You don't want to get so wrapped up emotionally that you can't process, why things happened, good or bad. And then you also have to have a level of care. If you're just like, whatever, I don't think that's good either. So I'd say I have a good middle ground of not getting overly emotional, but also caring enough to try and always be better next game, whether I have a good game or not.
I'm really struck by the maturity of this group, just sort of like understanding. That's a grown man's perspective, right? To just be grounded, appreciate it, have a concern, but don't let it weigh you down too much. What in the 2 games that we saw here, Tim, do you believe is most likely to translate? In other words, a trend, something on either side or maybe both, that you feel like will continue as the series shifts to the Eastern Conference champions home?
Well, I agree with what Rick Carlisle said. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to continue to do his thing. So clearly now Indiana has to do a better job of taking away space on the perimeter for the three-point shooting and not make that as much of a factor. Here's the thing we've seen now, Indiana 2 games. Nobody yet has really played exceptionally well offensively, and this is a great offensive team. Someone is going to have one of those games, whether it's Halliburton, Siakam, maybe they get an X-factor game out of a guy like Mathurin, whoever it is. They haven't yet had anyone really go off to any extent. OKC has had their best player do it twice and had bench players go off. Indiana hasn't had that yet. Expect that in Game 3.
I'm on fire. It's NBA, it's